Today on Stack and Mac, in the immortal words of Shang Tsung, your soul is mine. Mortal Kombat.
And just like movie reviews, there is no right, there is no wrong, only popular opinion. 12 Monkeys, starring Bruce Willis, Madeline Stowe, and Brad Pitt.
Stay tuned. Get over here!
And Mac. Stack and Mac. Looking back on movies.
So Mortal Kombat, alright, finds our intrepid heroes, Liu Kang, Johnny Cage, and Sonya Blade fighting in the 10th tournament in our realm of Earth.
Yes, that was all very well explained to us as we were watching the film.
Raiden explains it to us.
Yeah, Sonya really got it because she didn't know where she was till minute 55 of the movie.
Well, Johnny Cage does the same thing because about 5 minutes later, Raiden gives this whole, this is what's going on.
He does talk down like this to let us know that he's serious about this.
There can only be one Raiden.
Only one Raiden.
You get the Highlander reference?
No, I didn't watch Highlander. No,
okay.
This is the first time I've seen Mortal Kombat.
So, but Johnny Cage literally 5 minutes later, he's like, alright, I give up. What's going on? I'm like, Raiden literally told you that you're fighting in the 10th tournament against Outworld, and if you lose this tournament, it's the end of Earth as we know it.
Right, but he was so concerned with his luggage and his sunglasses, which were supposed to be humorous, but ended up just being bad. This is not a good movie.
It's not a good movie.
This is not a good movie at all. They don't even fight. They have that one sort of half fight in the beginning, and then I literally stopped 43 minutes into the movie was when the first fight happened. So there's 40 extra minutes of trying to develop character where there wasn't any character to be developed. You didn't care about the characters. It just,
to be fair,
bad.
I wanted to revisit this movie because I bit off hook, line, and sinker on any action-packed thing that was going on in the mid-90s, and I loved the video games. I actually played the arcade at the skating rink.
I played the games a couple times at the community center.
There was a cartoon spin-off of this. There were 2 sequels, but right up front, it's New Line Cinema, and then Mortal Kombat, and that song kicks in. I'm like, yes, this is it. I'm ready. And 30 seconds later, I'm like, dang it, this is not.
And it was really exciting when they played it through the first 2 fights, and then it's almost like they forgot to play it during all the other fights.
What did you think of Scorpion and Sub-Zero?
So they are the 2 characters that I remember the most from the video game.
Yeah.
I thought they were underutilized.
Yes.
I thought their special effects were not very convincing.
Of course not.
And I felt like... Here's my main problem. They tried to introduce so many characters into this film and give them backstories, where I don't really think that any audience member really cares enough about their backstories. If they would have just put them all into the ring and just let them fight, I honestly think that would have been a better movie. Or if they would have separated it, this would have been a kind of a cool mini-series, I think, where each beginning episode gives you a backstory to the character, and then you culminate in the end. But in an hour and 40 minutes, you can't do justice if you're going to, create backstories for these characters.
The movie also suffers from, the fight coordination, too. It's very dated in terms of it's zoom in and very 90s, roundhouse kicking. You really probably only have 2 or 3 trained fighters in the film. The rest are just actors who are body doubles too.
And even some of the fighting is strange to me because at first you have that guy that goes up against
Goro.
Yeah, and he's doing all these quick motions and stuff, which I think was meant to simulate the video game. But then you got Sonya who can barely walk around the ring. I mean, she was awful. And I looked up online. Cameron Diaz was originally supposed to play that role.
I want to watch that.
But she had a wrist injury, and so she couldn't. And the woman that ended up playing her, she's Pete Sampras's wife in real life.
She's in Billy Madison too.
And she's a pretty decent actress.
Yeah.
But she's awful in this movie.
Well, the acting itself is not the main part of the movie.
No, but they spent 45 minutes at the beginning trying to convince us that these characters are worthy to care about.
I will say, so I watched it the first time, probably 95, 96 on VHS, and when Christopher Lambert raises his head as Raiden, I remember specifically my mother gut laughing. Like, she couldn't take him seriously. I don't know.
Is that the guy from Highlander?
It's the guy from Highlander. And I don't know what it is, and I always kind of laugh, and I can't take him seriously now. But, of course, you're going to have a Caucasian, middle-aged male being the sorcerer who knows his kung fu and has all these powers. So, yeah, it's a little Johnny Cage. I'm really starting to understand now. The one-liners are getting to me in 95. There are way too many characters with terrible one-liners, and I don't know.
But the script is just bad in general.
Yeah.
It's not a good movie.
No.
Go ahead.
It still has its moments, though. I love seeing Scorpion. I love seeing Sub-Zero. They die in stupid ways.
They totally die in stupid ways with, like, horrible special effects. And I think I was just disappointed. Like I said, I played the video game. I knew who all the characters were going into it. And so when I heard the names and them reference them, I got excited about it. But then the follow-through was just so bad.
It's terrible.
That it just ruined it. It ruined it.
The other funny thing is the reoccurrence of industrial, kind of industrial club scenes in the 90s too. You see it in Ace Ventura. You see it in this. So when Sonia goes in and she's looking...
Oh, at the beginning of the
movie.
Film, yes.
But what I found interesting... So there's all this mayhem going on, and the guy literally pulls out a machine gun and is shooting at Sonia. She pulls out a shotgun. Everyone in the background still dancing.
Nobody noticed it at all.
Hardcore. And...
Talk about suspension of disbelief.
I was like, okay, I'll buy it. And then the part... I was excited, and I had forgotten about Reptile. So when
I forgot about Reptile also.
So when they're in Outworld, and I would say Outworld actually looks pretty cool.
Sure.
The set of Outworld look cool, not the tower. But when they're walking through Outworld and there's these guys strung up, like crucified along the streets, I'm like, this is pretty dark.
The set design, I think, is one of the saving graces to this film.
Mm-hmm.
Is that when they're not doing the CGI like outlook, kind of thing is really bad. The interior set design is kind of cool. The coolest moment is the door that opens up to the cafeteria when they're eating is really kind of neat. Like, because they were eating in a cafeteria.
And now for a taste of things to come. Sorry, I like that character. So,
what character is that? I don't remember.
Shang Tsung.
Oh, okay. So here's my main issue with this film. The sound editing is so bad in this film.
How did you watch this?
I watched it on my television with the remote control in my hand, turning it up so I could hear the dialogue. And then when the music started, it was so loud that I had to turn it back down.
What streaming service was it? Or did you watch it on DVD?
Amazon Prime.
Amazon, 99 cents right now.
Yes,
so
99 cents. And worth maybe 2 nickels.
So we've convinced you to go watch
Mortal Kombat.
It's on
only
special.
$1. It's only 99 cents. And the sound was, how do you watch a movie like that? How do you enjoy a film like that when you can't hear the dialogue, so you don't know what's going on, and then the music is so loud when they're fighting that you have to turn it down?
Well, I know I'm getting you for Christmas a sound bar, because I watched it with a sound bar. I didn't have any issues. And I watched it at midnight, and when that loud music came on, I turned it up, and I didn't care if my wife was sleeping, because it was so awesome.
It wasn't awesome.
It was awesome.
It really wasn't awesome.
Those 3 45-second intervals where it's just that song going, like the end, that build up where it's Liu Kang and Shang Tsung, and
I really felt every single moment.
And I'm like, yes, let's do it. And then that fight scene lasts like a minute, and then it's over.
Yeah,
not good.
It didn't even show him really dying.
The other fun scene is if you watch the Reptile. So of course, whoever was playing Reptile and Sub-Zero and Scorpion, those were like their main stunt guys, the guys who do the flips in the air and all this stuff.
Right.
So Reptile does like a backflip somersault down this ramp, and we'll put a clip up because it's just so awesome, the contrast between them. Reptile's doing all this, And then Liu Kang's like, yeah! Like, coming over and just like, well, I gotta do something. Yeah!
It's so preposterous.
His hair, too, was really unnerving. Like, he just looked cut like Bruce Lee, like, and then this hair.
Well, I think, isn't his hair like that in the video game?
It is, but just on that actor, it looked kind of meh. I don't know. He looked...
Can we also talk about when Sonya Blade got kidnapped, and all of a sudden she just free willingly let them change her into a dress, and change her hair and her makeup, and then Johnny Cage, whatever. I didn't even, they are in love?
They are, and it doesn't end well. Spoiler alert.
I didn't even know they were in love, because last I checked, they hated each other.
They did.
And they had a moment on the beach when she was like, you're awful, you're terrible, and then they are in love because she's dressed like Barbarella and with, strung out hair, being kidnapped.
It's
She's
magic.
like, my friends are coming, and they're like, we're already here. And they pull those hoods back.
It's like that scene in Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? When they take their...
I've seen that movie once.
Okay, wow. Put that on your list. So, I said it was magic when they went to Outworld and she ended up being strung up like Xena, warrior princess, with her big hair. He probably was just like...
Definitely.
He shook his head, he's like... Poof, and then she's wearing that.
That's exactly what happened, because this movie made tons of sense.
So, even from a nostalgia aspect for me, I knew it wasn't going to be a great film. And this is a great example of using CGI, a contrast between using it appropriately and then overusing it. Because we talked about Jumanji and how they incorporated animatronics and practical effects and the CGI, and it's not that dated. It still works okay. Whereas in this movie, it's right in your face with this just terrible CGI.
You know what it reminded me of? The television series Charmed. The CGI in Charmed, the television series on the WB.
I never watched that.
Except Charmed understood what it was, and I don't think Mortal Kombat understood what type of movie they were making. They made the CGI look like they weren't given a budget to make this film.
Oh no! And again, in 1995, even with a really good budget, you're not going to make.
Then do something else.
Well, it looks bad to us. I mean, it probably looked bad then too, but.
You look at the CGI in Casper. It's pretty decent.
You think about this though. Same director who would adapt another video game series and do a terrible job, and it's just my opinion. I'm a huge Resident Evil fan, and he did
I've never seen the Resident Evil
movies. They're not good.
Have you ever played the video games?
I don't know. I'm not talking on him because he did do Event Horizon, which has gained popularity in the last few years, and people seem to love it.
I haven't seen that either.
I liked it when I was younger. It was kind of scary and terrifying, but Mortal Kombat does not get our stamp of approval.
No, I enjoyed Mallrats more than this.
Ooh, that's saying a lot.
Yes, it is.
So let's move on to
12 Monkeys. 12 Monkeys is probably one of the most original science fiction movies that's been created within the last 25 years, exactly 25 years ago, starring Bruce Willis as James Cole as an inmate in the future of 2035 who gets sent back in time to sort of gather information about a virus that wiped off 5 billion people on the Earth. And in the film, he meets Madeline Stowe's character, Catherine Rayleigh, and she sort of helps him after some convincing that he is telling the truth, and they need to figure out how to stop it / gather information. Really great film.
We don't have a teleprompter, but that was a really good synopsis of a very kind of complex...
And there's some holes. There's some holes in the storyline that don't really add up 100%.
But when you boil it down, it's time travel and a post-apocalyptic future and a virus.
Yes.
Whereas the movie Mortal Kombat is just like fighting, tournament.
Right.
Directed by Terry Gilliam, probably up there for me. I love Brazil, which you haven't seen.
I have not seen Brazil, no.
Highly recommend. I think the art direction really reflects Terry Gilliam. You just... From the first few frames, this is his world, and I loved returning to it. As soon as we see the boy actually opens the film, but when you see Bruce Willis kind of
Right.
in a cage and.
Right. Well, I think that the practical effects of that world make it creepy to sort of watch. No, I don't know where they filmed it.
So they filmed it in industrial abandoned complexes in and around Philadelphia.
Oh, wow.
So they didn't have the budget. They had a decent budget, but Terry Gilliam is notorious for going over budget, and Universal was like, no, this is how much money, take it or leave it. And so just in terms of practicality, when you have limited resources, you use what you got, and it actually pays off really well. It adds to the mise en scène.
I think it adds to the tension of the film. I didn't get that joke, sorry.
It's fine.
Yeah.
It was not really a joke.
I'm sorry. Okay. But there's a lot of gravitas to this film, and a lot of broad ideas that I think are laid out pretty substantially throughout the film. And I the whole entire time I was watching it, again, I was thinking to myself, why do I like this so much?
Okay.
I like this. I love this movie. I loved it. I watched it for the first time maybe 15 years ago.
Okay.
And it just has stayed with me over time. I wouldn't say there's anything particular that stands out about it other than just the way that it made me feel after I saw it, and that feeling when I think about it stays with me, and when I rewatched it, it still stays there. I don't know. I can't really point out one thing about it that's great. It's just great, solid. It's just a solid film.
It is the wonderful thing that happens when you get a good director who's allowed to do what he wants. He got final cut on it, and out of nowhere, actors were lining up to be with him. Like Brad Pitt and Bruce Willis took cuts in their normal fee because they wanted to work with Terry Gilliam.
And you can see that they wanted to work, because it's some of the best work that either of them has ever done on screen. Done on screen.
If you haven't seen this movie and you think of Brad Pitt as just a Quentin Tarantino drop-in guy or just somebody who plays eye candy, watch this movie because he really dove into it. Just coming from it from a medical perspective, I can't comment on 1990s mental health institutions in Baltimore in 1990. I don't think it's a good representation of our mental health. But it's not supposed to be.
Right. I think it's that, I think ever since One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest came out in the 70s, the idea of that sort of mental institution sort of creates that tension, and I think that he was drawing from that. In film, it's kind of like if you're going to do a film with suspense and tension and you're going to include mental health issues, you put them in an asylum where they're, and stuff, and I think that adds to it. But then Brad Pitt's just incessant, the way that he talked and the inflections of how he used his words and stuff, really, it was tense just watching it, and the camera angles to the side whenever they were in the asylum.
He loves off tilt.
It just added so much to the film.
I enjoyed those scenes. And I think any intelligent movie maker or any intelligent film watcher, like anybody in the audience, will get that this is not supposed to represent reality. It's a hyper-reality. But it does kind of perpetuate those myths of this is the institution and we just let them all wander the halls and hit themselves and do that. So, but again, Brad Pitt, on point. Some of his best work.
Yes.
Bruce Willis and him together work really well.
Correct. Even though they're not together a whole lot, maybe 15 minutes in the first half of the movie.
Yeah.
But him and Madeline Stowe have excellent chemistry together throughout the film. I think Madeline Stowe is one of the most underrated actresses that we have. She doesn't do a whole lot, but everything that she does leaves an impression on me as a viewer. And I don't know if that's just it's probably a personal opinion. Obviously, all movie reviews are personal opinions.
What's the last thing she did? Didn't she do a TV show?
She was in Revenge on ABC. She was awesome in that.
I will say, me and Brooke watched that when it came out, and it's not a bad.
It's a really great
television show. Like a schlock soap opera.
But she sells it. Like,
she's good.
You have to sell a television show like that, and she really does. And in 12 Monkeys, you get the sense that she is sincere, but she's also scared, but she believes him, but she doesn't really know what to do. And then it's like, I don't really think that they fall in love as much as she really grows to care about him
for sure.
and what happens to him. I don't think it's a love story.
No,
I think it is she really cares about him and what happens to him in context of what ends up happening to the world. Because they don't stop the virus.
Nope, it's about following your fate, and your fate cannot be changed, and in the end, you watch yourself die, and you'll continue to watch yourself die for the rest of eternity.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of a downer.
It is a super dark film.
When we don't really touch on this very often, just because of the kind of films that we're reviewing, but the themes and the use of imagery and the intelligence that went into this. This isn't a Terry Gilliam script either. This is something that he took. Somebody else had written a screenplay, and it was made into his own. But that idea of being stuck in the system.
Right.
You are restrained by multiple things, and I know it kind of gets beat over the head in terms of the mental institution. So you have chemical restraints in terms of the drugs, you have physical restraints, you have bureaucracy, and I love how within probably like 20 minutes, you have Bruce Willis being scrubbed down and sitting in front of kind of a panel of judges. They're the scientists. And then when he's sent back in time, he's being scrubbed again and sitting in front of a panel of judges. And also the natural restraints, the natural order. We might be supreme in terms of our bureaucracy and able to control nature, but in the end it will come back to get us. So the ebb and flow of nature. Again, diving a little deep into...
But it's a movie that makes you think.
Yeah.
It's a movie that really sort of makes your mind question certain things that maybe you haven't really questioned before. Treatment of animals, the way that the mental illnesses are treated, the way that homeless people are treated. And I think that it just makes you think. There's, like I said, I can't figure out what I love about this movie so much. And I'm trying to figure it out, but I just think that that's really what it is. It's a piece of art. It wasn't made for a specific audience. It wasn't made for money. It was made with the greatest of intentions, I think.
It's sort of like Inception in the fact that it was an art film made by a major studio with a great director and a good cast. And we get those movies, and Inception science fiction too, but we get these movies every so often. Maybe once a decade. They come along. Just really well done. And
it spawned off a television series, which
I haven't seen it.
It's just good. I've watched the first 3 seasons. I haven't watched the last season that ended it yet. But it's a very good television show. Things are a little spread out a little bit more, but the time travel stuff is explained a little bit more because you have more time to sort of go through and explain sort of what's going on.
Thought process. So you have all these scientists, and they know the virus. What they're trying to do is they're trying to send Cole back to get the isolated original version of the virus before it mutates. So instead of using all of their immunology and their biochemistry and microbiology, let's just invent time travel. That's the biggest hole in that. It's like you have these scientists who are so smart that they figure out the physics.
But they're not scientists because you find out at the end that one of them, she does insurance. So I think that kind of sort of tells you... It's like, did you ever watch the television show Colony? It came on USA about aliens and stuff like that and everything. So the whole thing is that this guy that becomes like the alien spokesperson is like a school principal because they like did a code on people. And that kind of took me back to sort of that television show about how, you know, when major things happen in this post-apocalyptic kind of dystopian future, the people that sort of end up in charge are people out of necessity, not because they have those natural skills or anything like that. They just end up in that way. So I don't think she knew a whole lot about microbiology. She sold insurance.
So she sells insurance, but she's not the only one on that panel. But you're saying that it's easier to invent time travel than it is to come up with a cure for a virus.
It's a science fiction film, of course it is.
How topical is this right now?
Time travel?
I was going to say viruses. We didn't plan to watch this movie before the coronavirus.
Oh no, we planned this list like
months ago.
Yeah, so we're just going in order.
Yeah.
So,
but it's kind of topical now, and we won't. We are a movie review podcast. We're not going to get into medicine, but at the same time, it's interesting because coronavirus first cases show up in December. Again, we're in flu season, so we see that. And then December 27th apparently is the first confirmed case in Philadelphia in 1997. And 1997 is a terrible year because it's also Judgment Day in the Terminator universe as well. So I don't know why 97 was.
Well, 97 was not a great year for movies, in my opinion.
Titanic.
1997 was an average year for movies, in my opinion.
So, maybe because it was the near future, and we'll just drop everything bad happening before the end of the 20th century, whatever. Imagine what this movie would be like under another director. Because if you don't have somebody who's so detail-oriented and kind of a jerk to work with, honestly, if you see pictures or see video of him he's kind of like Kubrick, can be very demanding.
Right.
I don't think you get the 12 Monkeys that you and me love so much. It's just kind
Probably
of
not.
tossing.
Probably not.
You get a Paul Anderson film.
I wouldn't say that it'd be Mortal Kombat, but I don't think it would be as good as the end product of 12 Monkeys actually is.
For a science fiction film, you don't have CGI. It's
correct.
It's all story.
It is all story.
It is all story, and even the time travel, it's just this like kaleidoscope thing going around.
Right.
And it's not explained. They don't go into the techno babble that you get
Right.
with most movies. You don't really need to see it. It's implied too that he shows up naked.
Yes.
Right? Because
he goes in naked.
He goes in naked.
He goes in naked. He shows up naked. Yeah.
But I guess you're right. Yeah, that makes sense because when he's pushing through the pod. Yeah, so I think it holds up. I think this movie will continue to hold up.
I agree. Great film.
And then it just goes to show you less is more.
Agreed.
So that does it for us, I think.
Yeah, go watch 12 Monkeys.
Go watch 12 Monkeys.
Throw Mortal Kombat in the trash if you own it.
Next up, we've got in 2 weeks...
Toy Story and Judge Dredd.
That's good.
Yeah, I don't feel like I sounded smart, but that's okay.
What do you mean? It's not about sounding smart. It's about having a real conversation about two films.